Hi traders, having a look at a potential short setup on this US dollar against the Japanese yen, which we put up at our good friends over there at FinLogix a few days ago. So what we're looking at the moment is this US dollar index is starting to really test a pretty major daily support level. It's broken through it a few times. The data is coming out and is a little bit weak on this US dollar. So let's say we get a close and a breakdown in this US dollar index. What potential trading opportunities might we be looking for? So in preparation for that, I'm looking, and I put up earlier, as I mentioned this week, a potential shorting opportunity on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So I'm looking at a monthly chart here. So you can see back here in 2017, around this current level of 114, sort of 60 odd, people didn't want to pay much more than that. And we saw this huge reversal down to about 105. So, and then it goes back up again, and we saw it tested in 2018 a few more times. We saw it test around 2017, as I just showed you. So that's where we are right now. So is the market going to react and say, hey, listen, that's a bit expensive for this US dollar against the Japanese yen? So I'm going to zoom right in on that now. So let's go in and have a look at, say, a 4 hourly. And as you will see here, and I'll just get myself out of the way. As you will see here, we are starting to get a failure at that level. And I've zoomed in on the 4 hourly type chart. So you can see we've had a few down candles, but nothing dramatic. The only thing I am starting to see is a bit of the divergence occurring across, say, this top and this top. If we look at the MACD, this one's actually higher. And then the next higher one is actually crossing down as we see a little bit lower. So getting a bit of divergence, that's a negative sign, but nothing major enough at this stage. So what I'm looking for as I zoom in, and I'll get rid of this line for you. As I zoom in on that same level, what I'm starting to see is an opportunity for a trade setup. So I've drawn in this trend line here. I've not only got a pretty solid rejection at that major level, that 114 sort of 65 level I was talking about, but throughout the day, I've seen price now fail at this pivot. Okay, I've got a trend line drawn in, I've got a trend line break, a failure at a pivot, which is a lower top in the shorter term. This trend line's breaking down right around the market open in Frankfurt and London. Great one to look out for. And I'm seeing the MACD cross down. Prices moved down, bounced off the central pivot as expected, and putting in another lower top. So this trade setup here is what we're looking at. We're only risking about 25 pips. But if we go back to the bigger picture, what is the potential here? If we do get a reversal, once we get risk out of this trade, which we can do right now, it is an aggressive move, counter trend, and it has been a very strong trend. So let's see how this plays out. I mean, the potential is it could move down all the way down to, say, here, and I'm on a daily chart. So we're looking at, a huge return there, about 10 times, 10 to 1, which would be an amazing trade. So now that risk out is out, let's see how this plays out, and let's see if we've got the courage to not take profit as this potentially moves down. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Hi traders, I'm looking to get risk out of this US dollar yen short that we looked at last night. So as you can see here, this is a weekly chart. So prices failed right up around that monthly level of resistance, but it's now come below and it's cracked below this level here. So if we look at price back here in about 2018, that's currently where price is failing at the moment. So I'm respecting that and saying if I get a failure underneath this level here, okay, but currently, then I'll stay in this trade. But at the moment, I'll just show you when I zoom in on this 15-minute chart to show you where we're at. All right, so this is where we entered. Okay, we got a failure up at that major resistance level on the monthly chart, and then we got a failure set up underneath this pivot. So as a risk, we're risking about 25, maybe to 30 pips on this particular trade. So as we've seen throughout the evening, price came down, it was bouncing around that central pivot, it then broke below it. And then what was support intraday was starting to become resistance right around that central pivot level, suggesting that this particular day at present looks like it's heading south. So that's a good sign. Early in the morning, we got a bit of a bounce back, but as the pivot's repainted, it still respected this central pivot. And there was another potential opportunity if you're following this pivot sell setup method, which you can do in Duncan's webinars. You can see there, we've had this big breakdown, and now it's broken below that black line in question that I just showed you. So at this point here, you know, from where we entered, we're up about 40 pips, and we're only risking about, you know, at best 30 pips or 26, 27 pips. So at this stage, because the overall trend, and I'll just go to a daily, I think you'll be able to see it here. You can see that this is quite an aggressive uptrend that we're dealing with. We are starting to see some signs, but it could just be a pullback before this trend continues. All right, so what I'm looking for is a hold underneath this lower black line and a move down. If not, if it moves back up to retest, I will exit this trade at break even. If it gets back above this black line, I might even look at taking some partial profits. But my overall goal is to bring it, you know, all the way down to about 112 or maybe even more below. All right, talk to you soon and I'll keep you updated. Hi traders, Nathan here from ACY, having a look at taking some profit on that US dollar against the Japanese yen short setup that we got into. Would now be about a week later. So let's go in and just have a look and see how it's faring and why I'm looking at taking some partial profits. So we've even had a trade within a trade, which I'll go through, which is a pretty exciting situation for traders out there. So right now I'm in FinLogix, our good friends over there at FinLogix, and I'm looking at the news events, and you can see that we've got some US dollar against the Japanese yen. So we've got Japanese retail sales coming out shortly. But then the big news will be the interest rate decision, which may stay as it is, as they have done for some time. But that could affect the Japanese yen as a currency. And of course, their Bank of Japan quarterly outlook report. So you can see that in there. Also, while I'm here, we can have a look. This was the trade in question that we're doing an update on right now. It's taking profit out. This was back on the 19th of October. So there's plenty of trade ideas in here. So let's go in and just see how this trade I put up then is faring. So I'll bring up the charts for you. So I'm going to go to the daily chart. So if we have a look at the daily chart now, we have seen that the MACD has crossed down. So that's working in our favor. We've also seen a lower top failing under that weekly resistance level. That's a good sign in that we are getting some kind of correction. Now you can see at the moment, price seems to come down around this 130, 1336 level, and it's finding some support a few times. But in saying that, prices bounce back up. And if you're watching Duncan's webinars, right around that sort of 62% Fibonacci retracement, failing at a weekly resistance level. So that last night has actually provided a second opportunity to get into a second trade. So at the moment, we've got risk out of our trade. And now we've actually entered into a second profitable trade last night at a key level. So I'm just going to go through and show you that. So this is the level here. Price came all the way back up. We got a trend line break here. We got a failure right up at that weekly resistance. We got a lower top scenario and our MACD crossed down. So that provided us a trading opportunity to do a trade within a trade. Because remember, we're already short from a higher level. So I'm getting in here with a risk of about 25 pips. And then it moved all the way down to that daily support level. I think I ended up getting out around here on this particular trade at about, 60 odd pip profit. So it put us in a situation where, we've got about 2 to 3 to 1, 2.5 times profit just in one evening. However, we're still in that short trade. And so a profitable trade within the larger trade is how I like to find my setups, rather than going in right around all that Japanese news and taking some partial profits. So my original trade, I'm going to leave it as is. And we've already got the profit out as well as the risk out of that trade. So looking at these big key positions does allow us to trade intraday and trade for the longer period of time as well. I look forward to speaking to you all at the conclusion, and hopefully that conclusion, as I mentioned, let's go to the daily here. We're looking at price getting all the way down to around 112. All right, have yourselves a great trading week.